What's up? What's up? It's Raphael with NBA Draft Junkies. I'm back again, and I have another big board guest for today. I got my guy Dion Sherman, and today he's going to give us his big board, his top 14. So, Dion, how are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right, man. The bill on my hat, for whatever reason, keeps messing up. Looking kind of crazy on here. So, if I keep messing with it, that's because I can't get it to stay straight. All right, so let's get into your big board. It's probably been like a week and a half since I've done one of these. So the number one player on your big board is LaMelo Ball. So tell me why you have LaMelo number one.
Well, having him number one, it's sort of like an asterisk next to it. He's first because I think he has the highest ceiling. I think he's probably the only guy that has the potential to be a franchise number one. There's a lot of question marks, his shot is questionable. The defensive effort isn't always there. I think, at his size, with his creativity, his playmaking ability, he's a guy that I think can really be the best player on a championship team. And I don't think you can really say that about anyone else in this class.
All right. So when you think of LaMelo, what current player or past player comes to mind as far as a comparison?
I think he's pretty unique as a player. But throw some names out there. I mean, I heard some Pete Maravich, some Jason Williams. I think there are some similarities with his brother. I don't know if there's really one guy that really compares him. I'm not really big on player comparisons. I think they're mostly for people that don't do the research and just want to get a good idea of who the person is. But player comparisons, I mean, no two players are the same. So I'm not really big on player comps in terms of really trying to figure out who a player is. It can give you a good idea of what type of role they might play, but I don't usually do comparisons.
All right. So what team do you think would be the best fit for him? Because right now the Wolves have the number one pick. As of now, I mean, they may trade it, they may keep it. Do you think the Wolves are the best fit? If not, what team do you think is the best fit for him?
No, I definitely don't think the Wolves are the best fit. I think him and D'Lo both are primary ball handlers, primary creators. I think his best fit would be the Pistons, and I know probably outside of his range at 7, they don't move up. But I love the fit with healthy Blake Griffin. I think them two together, with Kennard spacing the floor, with potentially Demboya being a point forward. I really like the idea of LaMelo and Blake Griffin being on the floor together. I think LaMelo can sort of take the offensive load off of Blake to really help him out. I've been thinking about that fit a lot. I just don't think it's going to happen just with him being at number 7.
Right. Now, are you – obviously, if you think he has potential to be the best player and the number one option or even just the best player on a competitive team. So are you buying into him improving as a defender and a shooter?
Yes. I think shooting ability is not really shown in the percentages. I think, I think it has more to do with shot selection, which is going to be, I think, probably the biggest part of his development and where he ends up going. If he can get the right coach that will get him to take the right shots, I think that'll be good for him. I do buy the shot. He has a lot of shot-making ability. Defensively, I think he has the tools. It's just a matter of if he's going to buy in. He's got 6'10", 6'11" wingspan. And he plays the passing lanes well. I think it's more of an effort thing with him on defense.
Mm-hmm.
So, if he ends up in the right team, I do buy the defense. I do buy the shot. But, if he goes to, say the Hornets take him third, I don't think James Borrego and that coaching staff is really going to get him to buy in on the defensive end or buy into playing within the team concept. So, it really depends on him. It depends with everyone, but really more him. I think it comes down to what team he ends up with and, just how they develop him.
All right. Moving on to number 2. So this is where your list is a little bit different from others. I mean, I've done quite a few of these. Everyone's list is different, but usually the top 2 guys are pretty consistent.
Mm-hmm.
And so who is your number 2 prospect on your big board?
Number 2, I have Deni Avdija from Israel. I just love his all-around game. I really don't think there's any weaknesses to his game. I buy the shot. Um, I just think he's extremely well-rounded. I don't know how high his ceiling is, just because I don't think he has any one elite skill. He doesn't have the elite athleticism. Obviously, some people don't think he has a good shot at all. And his passing is great. I don't know if I would call it elite. So I don't know how high the ceiling is there, but I feel like he'll be a rock solid in the 12-year vet, no matter where he goes.
All right. So my question for you is, and I hear this often with, how can I say this, non-Black European prospects. Why is it that people assume that the ceiling isn't as high? So, for example, like we heard that with Luka. I heard people say that, oh, I think Luka is closer to a ceiling. And I know people to this day that still say that. And in your opinion, what makes you wonder about Deni's ceiling? Is it because he's more polished and skilled and he's not relying on athleticism, or is there another reason behind that?
I think the athleticism is the biggest thing. Obviously, he's still growing as a human being, but doesn't really flash that much quickness, that much speed, that much leaping ability. But I think that does put a ceiling on who you are as a player.
See, I think he's fast in the open court. I think once he gets a
Right.
rebound and he pushes it, he's pretty fast. I think
he's not slow. He's not slow. Don't get me wrong. I just don't think he has that elite athleticism that you see among most superstars.
Yeah, and which is kind of weird because I think teams make a lot of mistakes drafting a guy because he's a freak athlete with
Absolutely.
Not as much skill and a questionable IQ. And I guess you may figure like, okay, well, we can develop the skills and improve the IQ. You can't really teach the athleticism. But I wonder if like teams are going to start paying more attention to IQ and skills. I mean, you look at a guy like Jokic, he led Denver deep in the playoffs. He's not going to beat anybody in the athletic test.
Right.
You look at even like Tyler Hero. I mean, he's had a pretty good NBA Finals. He doesn't seem like a guy who you would say has a lightning quick first step. But I think because of I guess because he wasn't this freak athlete, and maybe because he went to Kentucky, he didn't get a chance to really, show everything that he could show because he has so many other talented players around him. But I think a lot of teams made a mistake in allowing him to fall that far. And so looking back at it, did he fall because he wasn't this freak athlete?
I think it's a fair assessment. Yeah, I do think being an elite athlete is a little bit overhyped when it comes to these kind of things. But in Deni's case specifically, I think it'll just limit his ability to be creative with the ball because obviously he'll have more spacing when he gets to the NBA, but it'll be harder to go by guys and box people out for rebounds because he honestly surprised me with his rebounding ability. I'm starting to backtrack and think, well, is it going to be that easy to grab these rebounds over 7-footers and the LeBrons of the world? There's multiple LeBrons, but just higher athlete.
See, I don't know. I think it will because if you notice, like now, a lot of teams on the offensive end, as soon as the shot goes up, they just sprint back on defense to try to prevent, try to set up their defense as opposed to crashing the offensive glass. And then a lot of teams are now having their guys box out and allow their ball handlers to get the rebound so they can initiate the offense faster. So that's why I'm kind of buying into him being a pretty good rebounder on the next level because I think once he gets the rebound, then you can, get into your offense and you don't have to pass it to a point guard. And I'm buying into him being as a secondary ball handler.
Me too.
But why, in your opinion, why do you have Deni at number 2 above some of the other players in this draft?
Well, some of the other names like Anthony Edwards, James Wiseman, I guess I've heard Obi Toppin up there. I think they have more questions. Deni is a guy that, super high IQ, great feel for the game, has that skill already. And, in such a crazy draft process, I think that's a guy that whoever takes him, what they're getting. They're getting a well-rounded, high IQ guy. And when you look at someone like Anthony Edwards or James Wiseman, I just have too many questions. I don't know what they're going to give me in the game. And even long-term, I'm not exactly sold on what those two guys' ceilings are. And even though I think Deni's ceiling is lower than those two guys probably, I just think he's more of a sure thing. Which there's no sure things in the draft. But
Right.
I feel much more confident about him being a long-time NBA player in comparison to Edwards Wiseman.
Gotcha. Yeah, I like him a lot. I mean, I have him pretty high. I don't have him number 2, but I wouldn't be shocked to see him actually go number 2 to the Warriors if they keep the pick. I know he's working out in Atlanta. I've reached out to the people that are training him at the Skills Factory to see if I can come and get some footage. Haven't heard back. So if you know anybody that's watching, the people at the Skills Factory in Atlanta, tell them to hit me back. I want to come out there and get some footage. So yeah, I think it would be dope to see him up close and personal. I'm sorry.
My sisters live in Atlanta, but I don't think they have connections like that. But,
yeah. I mean, I sent a DM. He read it. He just put me on. He left me on scene. So, maybe I just got to get the channel up a little more and get a little bit more respect out there. But one day I'll be there to where I'll be able to have access to anybody. So
for sure, man.
I'm just gonna
doing great things out here, man.
Thanks, I appreciate that. All right, speaking of Anthony Edwards, you have him number 3 on your list.
Yes.
So, what are your positives? What do you like about Anthony Edwards, and then what are your red flags?
So positives right off the bat, he's an elite athlete, NBA ready athlete. I love his first step ability. I like his ball handling. I think he's a really creative ISO scorer. He's a guy that can come into the league right away and average 18 points a game. He has the tools to be a great defender. I don't think he's there yet.
He has the tools to be great everything.
Right. I love the potential that he has. For red flags, I worry about his motor, if he's really going to buy in and be that defender that he's capable of. I worry about his vision. I see a lot of times, both creating his own shot and looking for others, he tends to settle for pull-up jumpers way more than going to the rim when he has the lane. He doesn't have great vision passing the ball, I don't think. He's not a bad passer, but really is looking to get his own bucket before anything else.
Right.
Also, actually, this is something that I think I learned from watching your videos, is that he's never played for a winning team, and he's always sort of picked his spots and where he got to play. And I worry that he's going to try to force his way into a situation where he's the number one guy, and regardless of if that's best for the team, I just worry if he's a guy that is sort of conducive to winning.
Yeah, so I think I've been corrected on that. I guess in high school, his team did go pretty far, but they were just in a lower level of competition. It wasn't like at the top level. And so I think
it's still true, if you look at AAU teams he chose to play for and the college he chose to play for.
Yeah.
He went to situations where he knew he'd be the number one guy, could take as many shots as he wanted. I just wonder if in the NBA going to be sort of like Dion Waiters in that sense, where he wants to be, that number one guy.
Kobe Wade.
Right. And I just worry that, he could end up being on some 22-win team. He's averaging 25 a game.
Yeah, I think that's legitimate. And for me, I try to look at it objectively. So if his goal was to make it to the NBA and his goal was to be the number one pick, then you cannot knock his plan. His plan worked totally. Sure. Yeah. Now it's just a matter of, staying. Like getting to the NBA is, I'm not going to say it's easy. There's one thing, but staying and then like, having a major role on the team. And you look at Dion Waiters, he was the 4th pick, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I mean, he's still going to end up playing 10, 11 years at the minimum, maybe. But, he's I don't think he's going to see a role as a starter anytime soon. I think that, he's going to end up in a position where he's going to be seen as a microwave guy off the bench. And then, if he doesn't dominate that role, then he could be in some trouble. So
Right.
I definitely can see some comparisons as far as like a floor, but I also think that he definitely has the potential to be an all-star, multi-year all-star,
Mhm.
which in a lot of cases most of these guys do, who are projected to be just high in the draft. It's just a matter of situation fit and their own work ethic. All
I
right,
agree.
so number 4, this is the highest I've seen this prospect. So who is the number 4 player on your big board?
I have Tyrese Haliburton.
Okay. All
Or
right,
sorry,
so
wait. Oh, I'm sorry. No, it is not Tyrese Haliburton. I have Devin Vassell fourth.
okay.
My mistake. Um, he's a guy that, I think sort of similar to Deni Avdija, that even his floor, I think, is in a 12-year NBA vet. Just classic 7-3 and D kind of guy. But I think he has the potential to be as good as, a multi-time All-Star.
I
Just
agree
comes down.
100%.
Yeah, I know you're really high on him too. He's a guy that, if he can develop, I think his ball handling is probably the biggest thing. If he develops that ball handling or just shoot guy, because he's shown some flashes at Florida State of being a shot creator. He's got that really high release. So I think if he can work on that ball handling to a point where he can be a primary creator, I definitely see all-star potential. And defensively, I mean, he's very sound, very versatile, great shot blocker. He checks all the boxes defensively for me. It's just a matter of if he can expand his already pretty solid offensive game.
Man, I agree. I think ball handling and adding strength. I
Yeah,
wonder if the reason why he doesn't attack the rim is because he's so light.
right.
But then,
His free throw rate is pretty low.
yeah,
Not the
really
exact number
low.
from
Like I
yeah,
think, maybe outside of Halliburton, it was hard for me to find a guy to project it in the lottery that shoots as or gets to the free throw line as few times as he does. But yeah, I think that he has a really high ceiling. Again, ball handling, adding strength, and I think those are the two things that are holding him back. But the other concern is, and it's the same concern with Halliburton. These guys are, even though they're still young, you don't want to say a guy that's a sophomore in college is old, but they've had the opportunity to be around a college weight program for a couple of years, and they're still like really light and haven't really put on too much bulk. So, and they kind of have like narrow frames, so it kind of makes you wonder how much strength can they add on to their frames, and if they do add strength and bulk up, is it going to affect their mobility and their athleticism? So I think that could be something that you may be concerned about, but I don't think it's too much of a concern because I do believe that in a best case scenario, I mean, I think Vassell could end up being like a Paul George type, best case scenario. And I know people are low on Paul George right now. He's, it's kind of easy to pick on him and
yeah,
say he's not this and that. But Paul George he's putting up. He's had a really really nice career. He's been all defense. He's
absolutely.
been all NBA, multi-time All Star. I mean, and only in like
He's
social
third
media.
in MVP voting.
Yeah, only in social media is it a bad thing to be Paul George right now.
Right.
So
Right. We can say pandemic all we want. I mean, the fact of the matter is he's top 15 player in the league.
yep,
He's had his shortcomings in the playoffs, but I mean, he's still elite talent. So
definitely.
yeah, and I see that comparison for sure. But when
Yep.
it comes to strength, I definitely think it's a valid concern to have for Vassell. But across the board, I don't really worry too much about strength because I mean, at the end of the day, they're 19, 20-year-old kids,
Mm-hmm.
and gets the NBA. I mean, it's a good point about the sophomores and 2 years in the college programs. But the NBA is a different beast. If 2 years from now Vassell still hasn't put on any strength, then I think we can start to say, yeah, he's never going to do it. But I think NBA training can get you that strength that you need, and
Yep.
it's not a huge concern for me generally with prospects.
Yep. All right. So number 5, who is the 5th player on your big board?
Fifth, I have Onyeka Okongwu, USC center. I right away, I just want to put this out there. I don't like the Bam Adebayo comparison. I think that's super unfair to him, Okongwu. I
So
see the
which
similarity.
comparison? You mean like Bam at the same age or Bam
No, I
today?
like people who project Onyeka to become what Bam is now. I think that's unfair to Okongwu
Shoot,
because
we didn't even know Bam would be the Bam he
that
is now.
exactly right. So I don't think it's fair to say that he's going to be that because no one saw the playmaking from Bam when he was at Kentucky. Um, I do like Okongwu for his rim protection, rebounding. I think he has some potential to become a floor spacer. Um, I think he's just really solid. Not a lot of holes in his game. He's already incredibly strong, great frame. He's I guess technically undersized. He's 6'10", 6'9", a little undersized for a 5, but I think he can definitely play full-time center on the right team.
He might be oversized for today's NBA.
Yeah, fair enough. In terms of the traditional 7-footer.
Which is that era is, those days are gone. Because
Rudy Gobert's holding on as long as he can.
Gobert's holding it down. I mean, there may be some exceptions here and there, but yeah, I mean, the Lakers.
But when you look at
their
when
best
you look at like the elite centers in the league, Anthony Davis is 6'11", Cat's 7 foot 7'1".
AD still doesn't even want to.
Yeah, he doesn't want to play center.
He doesn't want to play center.
He's a center.
He's a center. He's definitely a center. But it's even hard to put him as a traditional center because, I mean, they're running like screens for him to pop out at the elbow and shoot jumpers.
Yeah.
Nothing traditional about that.
Yeah, that's fair. But in terms of Okongwu, yeah, I think he's a center. And I think he has potential to become a floor spacer. Even if he's not, I think he can run the pick and roll extremely well. Good screen setter. Again, I don't see a lot of holes in his game.
Yeah, I don't either, and I want to see him in space. I've mentioned before, we didn't get a chance to really see him.
Yeah, he played with another center at USC. Yeah.
So yeah, I think that there's some skills there. He may have some skills that we never really got a chance to see unlocked. And I mean, I felt like he showed flashes of being a decent passer. But he still had quite a few turnovers. And I know early in the season he had an issue where he was overpowering guys and he's picking up a lot of charges. But I do think that you can develop him to a decent passer. Maybe not at Bam's level where he'll be a point center, but right. I do think that he's a guy that if you give him the ball in the post and he can be patient and kind of pick teams apart and wait for double teams, I do think he has that type of vision.
I agree. I think it's a little unfair to project Bam Adebayo out of him, but yeah, I think he has decent passing vision out of double teams and in the low post.
Yep, I agree. And for those who are just now listening, I'm with Dion Sherman. And Dion, you have a website or a blog that you have?
Yeah, so I've been running an Instagram page for a little while now. It's at @the_hoop journal, and I recently published a website at thehoopjournal.com. I have the domain for it, but I still need to make it public and publish it. But site is up. You can access it. If you go to my Instagram, you can see in the bio how to access it. Very new though. I just got started it up maybe 2 weeks ago. But yeah, I have articles on there. I'm hoping to start my own podcast soon. But yeah, anyone who's watching, go check that out at @the_hoop journal on Instagram.
Cool. Sounds good. I mean, I love seeing people that are, just taking advantage of everything that we have today as far as technology and being able to start your own thing. Before you would have had to, try to get on with a newspaper or something like that. And now you can really just, you can be your own boss. I mean, I started this site a few years ago and I'm thankful that it's grown and I'm up to 12,000 subscribers and, I just got to keep going. I feel like when you live out your goals or your dreams, there's really no limit to where you can go. I mean, you could end up with, a podcast with 1 million downloads a month. And, you get that type of downloads, then you're really working 2 or 3 hours a day because you can make enough money to live off that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, so let's get into to the number 6 prospect on your big board.
Okay. Number 6 is actually where I have Tyrese Haliburton, not 4. Um, he's a guy that I was actually really high on. I had him as high as 3 at one point a couple months back, but I sort of scaled that back a little bit. I think he's really good with the ball in his hands. He's a guy that I could see averaging north of 9, 10 assists a game in his prime. I think he has tremendous vision. He's one of those guys that, you know, he's like 2 plays ahead. You know, he reads defenses really well. He can grab the rebound and get the ball out on the break on his own. Um, I really like what he brings to the table. I understand people who would have other guards ahead of him, you know, Killian Hayes or other guys, but I just really like his skill set, and I think he's going to have a really successful NBA career.
I think he's maybe the safest pick. Like a team wants to play it safe. I think that he's a very safe pick. You can play him at the 1 or the 2.
Mm-hmm.
He can complement a dominant ball handler. You can put him at the point. My only question about him is, well, I shouldn't say only. I have a couple of questions. Pick and rolls. Like, what type of guard do you play him with? Because I mean, he doesn't really show much of being able to get downhill or mid-range pull-up. So I think that kind of hurts him as far as like run a pick and roll offense. And in today's NBA, it's all about pick and roll. But I think if you pair him with a dominant ball handling 2 or another shot creator, then I think that you maximize his skill set.
I agree. Yeah. See, I projected him sort of as like this floor general, trying to do it all guy, and then I really thought about, well, what kind of guard would you put next to him? And that's when I started to realize, well, yeah, he's not that, like you said, not that great of a first step, not much of a 3-level scorer. But I think he's a guy that if you needed to run your offense, either be the starting lineup or the bench unit, he can do that. He can play off of a point guard at 2 because I think he's long enough to guard both backcourt positions. I think he's really solid. I don't know. I don't think he has the crazy high ceiling. He's a guy that can fit with just about anybody. Play just about any role that you need. My biggest concern for him.
I definitely think he's plug and play.
Yeah, for sure. My biggest concern is the shot form, because he shot 39% from 3, but the set shot that he has, that low release, I think is a little concerning. I think he's going to struggle to shoot on closeouts. But we'll see. I mean, the percentages were fine. The shot went in, but I just worry about the low release.
Yeah, I think that if he played with a James Harden, that type of player, and we don't know what offense Houston is going to run next year with D'Antoni being gone. But if he played with a Harden type guy to where he could be another playmaker, but all he has to do is shoot set shots, then I think that he would be a great, you know what I'm saying? I think he could average 15, 16 points a game on a higher number of assists because, he's going to knock down open shots, and then he doesn't have to worry about being the ball handler in closing situations. And so I think, Houston doesn't have a pick this year, but I think he would be a good fit there. I think Golden State would be a good fit for him, even though they probably have to trade down and collect some assets. But I think in that system, he would be a really good fit. And I've said this multiple times on this platform. He could come in off the bench. He could run the point for you. He could play off the ball. You give them another shooter, ball handler, decision maker. And so I think that would be a good fit. I think like maybe New York. I know Knicks fans aren't too high on him. But if they believe RJ is going to be like the dominant pick and roll ball handler and the slasher, and then I think Haliburton would be able to play off of him and knock down some open shots. So we'll see. I'm curious to see how the fit for him and where he ends up.
I like that pairing with RJ, long term at least. I think if he were to get drafted by the Knicks, he would probably struggle as a rookie just because their spacing is horrible.
Right.
But yeah, he is a good catch and shoot shooter. He's a guy that I think he's not someone that's going to carry your team. He's sort of that guy that fits in with other stars. I think that's why he would fit so well with the Warriors. If you look at when he played with Team USA, I think that's when he was really at his best because he was surrounded by so much talent and he knows how to make other players better. I don't think he's that guy that, just carries the scoring load and leads a team like that. I think he's like that really good plug and play, like you said.
And so I was at those Team USA games, and I wish that they would have played better competition. And so, I mean, like I've said before, the second best team in that tournament was USA second unit because they had
Right.
Jalen Green and Kerry Lewis on their second unit. So, but yeah, I thought that to me that was kind of like his coming out party in a sense.
Yeah.
Because he didn't turn the ball over and he just did all the little things to win, even though, they were going to win regardless. But to me, that was my first time really seeing him as a potential lottery pick because his freshman year at Iowa State, they had quite a few ball handlers. And I mean, he was good, but, he was just playing a role and, he was just behind some guys that were getting a high volume of shots. But then another concern is this year when he had the team to himself, they weren't as good as I thought they would be. So, but I definitely think that he's a pretty safe pick. All right, so let's move on to number 7. You have Killian Hayes. I'm a big Killian guy, so I want to hear why you have Killian number 7 on your list.
So, when you watch Killian Hayes highlights, I think anyone could watch that and be really amazed by what they see, the step backs and all that he has to him, the handling. But when you watch full games of his, I see a lot of standing around. He reminds me of John Wall in that sense, where ball's not in his hands. He's standing above the three-point line or standing in the corner, hands on his knees.
James Harden does that too.
James Harden, right. So I just think he's extremely ball dominant, which doesn't have to be a bad thing. But I don't see him being a superstar player. So seeing that he doesn't really excel off ball, I think that just puts a cap on his ceiling. If he goes to a team where, like, say he gets drafted by the Pistons, like I'm sure they'll give him the keys and, at that point it's no issue. But if you were to play for the Warriors, that wouldn't work out because you can't have the ball in your hands at all times on that team.
Yep.
That's my biggest concern with him. Other than that, though, I like everything I see out of him, Oh, well, besides the fact he only has one hand, you really can't use that right hand. But in terms of just his game, I think he's great ball handling ability, great passer, the passing lanes well. I'm a little skeptical about his on-ball D. I think it's solid, nothing great. Does play the passing lanes well. So I do like him, not as much as, say, you or Kevin O'Connor, but because I think he has him number 1.
He has number 1, yeah.
Yeah. I'm not that high on him. I get it for sure. I have a couple question marks that kind of force me to put him a couple spots lower than that.
Yeah, like you said, everybody in this draft has some question marks, and we're all just kind of guessing in a sense.
Of course, yeah.
Because we don't know. I think he's a pretty solid defender. I think he's a better defender than Melo.
Okay, yeah.
And then I also think that if he would have played in Australia, he would have put up the same numbers or if not better than Melo on a little bit more efficiency. But that's just my opinion. Because I'm definitely high on the Killian Hayes bandwagon.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's move to number 8. So this is actually your next few guys you have them lower than what I've seen on a few different draft boards. So you have James Wiseman at number 8. So in your opinion, how did Wiseman fall from the projected number 1 at this time last year to number 8 on your list? Was it just because of lack of film, or you just have questions about his long-term fit and his role?
Well, the lack of film definitely didn't help. He played, 3 games.
Yeah.
And again, I mean, it wasn't even, it's not like he played against Duke or like, he did play Oregon, I guess, but, the lack of film is definitely one of the reasons why I just couldn't be as sold on him. Because I've seen it with some of these other guys. But also, when I watched, AU and high school highlights, he looked more like, I don't know what the word is, like creative, I guess. Like he looked like he had this mid-range game, the creative post game, different post moves. And then when I saw him play for Memphis, he looked like robotic and not very fluid. Just didn't really look like he was comfortable with the ball in his hands or really on offense in general. And then I saw, I think he's going to really struggle in his first season at least with foul trouble. He's a guy that's kind of like
Mitchell Robinson.
Mitchell Robinson. The name I was looking for was Hassan Whiteside, where he kind of hunts blocks rather than actual rim protection. He's a guy, like, he's the ultimate situation guy, meaning, like, if he goes number 2 to the Warriors, I think he could become a defensive beast, rim protector, rebounder, and floor runner. But I think, say he goes number 3 to Charlotte, I see him developing his offensive game while the defense kind of gets left by the wayside. So I think there's a lot of different ways his career could pan out. He's got the tools, 7'5" wingspan, the whole thing. But I have too many concerns. I've heard bad things about his motor, which I guess, no one really knows besides him how hard he wants to work. But there's just too many concerns for me to have him in the top 3 or anything like that.
All right, what do you think his ceiling is? What type of player do you think he can be at his best?
I think it depends on where he ends up. If he focuses on defense, I could see him being like a Dwight Howard light. Maybe not 3-time defensive player of the year, but really effective rim protector, back-to-basket scorer.
Post Orlando Dwight.
Yeah, not defensive player of the year, Dwight.
Mm-hmm.
But, I see all-star potential for James Wiseman. I also see sort of that Marvin Bagley. I mean, Marvin Bagley maybe not fair because he's been injured, but I can see him being that kind of tweener where he's not quite strong enough to be a 5, but he's not really quick enough to play the 4. He doesn't have the floor spacing. But ceiling, I could see him being an all-star.
All right. Yeah, that's fair assessment. I mean, I like Wiseman a lot. I think that he definitely has a baseline of skills that you can work with and develop.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if he can knock down open shots, then I really think he becomes a weapon. I do think that he's going to struggle his rookie year because, he's so inexperienced.
Yeah.
By the time the season starts,
jumping from high school to the NBA.
Yeah, 3 games in over a year. And so I think that not only him, quite a few other guys in his class are going to be super rusty because, even if they're working out every day, you're still, you're not really getting that game competition and all of that.
Deni, I think, is the only one who's played a game since March, unless you count Yamadar. But, I think he's the only one that's played any real basketball since then.
Deni played, maybe some of the second-round guys in Europe. And then even if some of the guys that are overseas and they're in this 2020 class and they're playing right now, and if they can get out of their contracts, those guys are going to have somewhat of an advantage because they've been playing and, they were able to have like an extended off season, but then play. But the American players, even like LaMelo is going to be over a full year between his last game.
Yeah, because he got hurt was it December or January?
I want to say like late December.
Yeah.
Close to the same thing for RJ Hampton. Wiseman is going to be
Haliburton.
3 games. Haliburton. So it's this is a year unlike any other. But I just think like, especially Wiseman, in a sense that he's going to be, I think he's just going to be a step behind. Not due to anything that he's done, just from lack of experience. Like you said, he's really going straight from high school to the NBA, but it's like high school, a whole year out, and then to the NBA. So he's not going to get that experience that he got in college as far as like gameplay.
Right.
All right, so down to number 9. You have Isaac Okoro, number 9.
So he's a guy that obviously, first thing with him is defense. He's an incredibly versatile defender. He's got great strength, great discipline in defense. He's a guy, I know I said I don't really like player comps, but he reminds me a lot of Jaylen Brown coming out of college. I think he's actually stronger than Jaylen Brown, but just in terms of what he can do now, he's a great athlete, runs the floor really well, touches lobs, twitchy on defense. And it's just going to come down to the same thing with Jaylen Brown. Can you develop that shot-making ability? Can you develop that ball handling and really be a creator? And I think he can. I'm not 100% sold on it. I think baseline for him is, just being a guy who can guard 2 through 4, maybe even 1 through 4. Just be switchy on defense and be a rim runner in the fast break. He runs the fast break really well, which I think is going to help him a lot early on to get offense. And I mean, if you buy the shot developing and ball handling developing, I mean, he could be an all-star.
Yeah, I'm starting to see the Jaylen Brown comparison. I remember when I did my video breakdown of Jaylen Brown, I thought like, man, this guy is athletic. He does a lot of stuff, but I don't know what he does well. I couldn't figure out like what would be his niche. It's like you can't label him as a shooter. You can't just say, okay, he is a great slasher. Can't say he just had a lot of he just had a lot of talent and a baseline of skills. And I think Boston has developed him. They've done a good job developing him. And then also just, himself. I mean, he spent the summers working out, so I don't want to give the team all the credit because he's obviously put in the work on his own. And it's interesting because they're both from the same area.
Yeah, both right outside of Atlanta.
They're both from Atlanta. Yeah, so, yeah, I mean, that if he falls to number 9, like you have on your list, and they get a Jaylen Brown type development, that's a steal. Yeah, it's a big time steal. Yep.
Yeah.
All right, down to number 10.
All right, this is my most controversial one, where I have the most internal conflict. I could see this dude being 5. I could see him being 25, and I probably wouldn't disagree with you. Obi Toppin, I don't know. I mean, he's a great athlete, great rim runner, showed flashes of shooting the 3-ball well. High hips on defense kill me, man. I don't really know who he's going to guard in the NBA. He doesn't really have the strength to guard 5s. He's not nearly quick enough to guard in the perimeter. I just have so many questions about his defense. But, I think you said that's your pick for Rookie of the Year, right?
Yeah, I mean, if he goes to a bad team and, he plays 32, 33 minutes a game, I think he's offensively skilled enough to where he's going to put up, big numbers. Kind of like – this may not be the best comparison, but remember the year Tyreek Evans won Rookie of the Year, and they just kind of put him in a position to win Rookie of the Year because they wanted to try to sell tickets and to kind of create a hype behind him. Yeah. I don't think he's had a season as good as his rookie year since then, but I think he was like 19, 5-5. It was like Jordan, LeBron, Oscar Robinson, and him at the time.
I think I know the stat you're talking about, yeah.
And so and he's never really – I mean, he's gotten better, but he's never reached the level or close to the level as the guys that were on that list.
Yeah.
So I think that, Obi goes to – I don't know, let's say he goes to Charlotte, then I could see him putting up really big numbers in Charlotte and Rookie of the Year type numbers, and they'll still end up in the same place in the lottery the next year. Yeah. So, I just think that depends on where he goes. If he falls to a team like Washington, I could see him putting up pretty nice numbers because they're going to play so fast and he'll get more possessions. And they're going to give up they gave up 130 points, or not 130, but they gave up like a lot of points this year, maybe like 120. They may give up 130 with him on the floor, but you add those extra possessions, then he might put up 18 and 8 or something like that.
Yeah. See, I think he is the perfect example of a player that a team will draft not because they're looking to win a title, because he, I think, is a guy that has a ton of talent, ton of skill, put up a ton of points, sell a lot of jerseys, sell a lot of tickets. I cannot see him being in any sort of lineup that is contending for a championship. I just don't think that his game leads to winning, and I don't think he's a guy that, unless he drastically improves his lateral quickness, I can't see him. I can't picture him being in a playoff series.
Yeah, they're definitely going to run him off the floor in a playoff series.
But I think he's a guy that, if he goes to Charlotte or whatever, he'll sell a million Toppin jerseys. It'll help sell tickets. But they'll be in the same spot next season, in the lottery again.
Yeah.
So I go back and forth with having him at 10 because the talent is there. But in reality, there's probably a ton of guys I personally, if I was a GM, would draft over him. But, the talent is undeniable. But I had him at 10.
Yeah, and that's the thing about making these boards is that you have to be realistic. So you have to go with, how you see the guy where you rank them, but then there's also situations where like, okay, I may not be high on this guy, but I know for a fact that he's going to go in the top 10, even though
Right.
he may be like a top 20 player on my board. So I
Right.
totally get that. All right, once again, this is Raphael with NBA Draft Junkies, and I got Dion Sherman with me. So we're down to the last few in your big board lottery. So number 11, you have Cole Anthony. So tell me
Yes.
why you have Cole Anthony outside of the top 10, which I mean, this is about where I see him on a lot of different boards. But in your opinion, a guy that was arguably the best point guard coming into this season, like I literally say September 1st, 2019, I think a lot of people would have said Cole Anthony was the best point guard in this draft class. So in your opinion, why do you think he's number 11 on your board?
Well, yeah, I agree. I think September 1st, 2019, I probably would have said he's the best guard in this class. But, you know, I think he struggled a lot at UNC for reasons that weren't really in his own control. He had the injury. He had arguably one of the worst rosters around him UNC has ever had. So, no floor spacing and all that. So I think I have to stop myself sometimes from looking at the numbers and going, well, this wasn't really what I expected, because you have to realize that he wasn't really in a great situation.
Right.
But, I think he's really talented with the ball in his hands. He has good vision. He has great scoring ability. I wonder how great. I can see him being like sort of like a CJ McCollum without a Damian Lillard, if that makes sense, where he's the number one guy and defense is keying on him. I'm not sure how successful he'll be. I could see him being that sort of undersized two next to a great scorer.
Yeah, I could even see him being a high-level six-man.
Yeah, I like that role for him too.
Yeah, where you run him out there with the second unit and you just say, hey, do what you do. Go get buckets.
Mm-hmm.
And he may not start, but I see him as a guy that could be in the closing lineups for a team. Now, I think early in his career, because I project him to be drafted in a lottery, I think he'll be a starter. But I think, maybe around year 4, 5, or 6, then
that second contract, yeah,
he could end up, finding a role as a six-man. I mean, like Jamal Crawford started off, teams thought he was a starter, same with like Jason Terry, but then they settled into that role. But to me, I think the only reason I have him in that situation is because I don't really know if he is I don't like using the word pure point guard, because what is a pure point guard? But I don't know if he has the court vision to lead a team. Like, I see him making a lot of just basic dump offs.
Right.
I think he's so focused on scoring first. If he can figure out the balance between looking for his shot and getting teammates involved, then yeah, he could definitely be a high-level starter. But right now, and just based off of everything I've seen and just kind of follow him throughout the years, it's definitely score first. I do see, I guess when you compare Edwards to his floor being like Deion Waiters, I think with Cole Anthony, his floor could be like an Austin Rivers type.
I like that comparison, yeah.
To where, he's you put him in and he's always looking shot first, and one-on-one. So, but yeah, I think where you have him is pretty much fair. I mean, I think I have him around the same range.
I see, I like him in that six-man role. I think he's a guy that can run like a bench unit, but like you said, not a pure point guard, so to speak. Because he is score first. But one thing I want to mention about him, I love how quickly he gets to the rim. He's not one of those guys that Anthony Edwards will sit there and break you down with dribble moves all day, just going into his back. Anthony is a guy, he doesn't care about all that. He will take one dribble, go right by you, and get right to the rim. And I think that can be really effective for him, just being, not worried about the fancy stuff, just getting right to the rim, just being a bucket getter,
Especially with floor spacing. I wonder if we would judge him differently if he had some type of floor spacing at UNC.
Mhm.
So I'm curious to see him, just with NBA floor spacing. But it depends on where he goes. I mean, he could end up in the NBA and he goes to a team where they don't have a lot of floor spacing also. So it's tough to predict. But number 12 is what I really, when I saw your list, number 12 is the one that I really wanted to hear your opinion about. This is the highest I've seen him on this list.
Me too.
I think I had him in my top 14 early last year, September. And then he also dealt with some injuries last year. So, his stock kind of fell on a lot of boards. But apparently to you, he, his injuries did not affect his draft stock. So why are you higher on Theo Maledon than others?
Well, I will admit he is the one guy that I consider myself to be irrationally high on. The argument I'm going to give you is probably not that strong for having him this high on the board, but he's the one guy in this class that I just kind of have that feeling about. I can't exactly explain it. Something about him, I just think he's going to be rock solid. Having essentially Tony Parker as his mentor, I think is huge for him. I love the way he sees the floor. It seems really cerebral the way he plays the game. He just kind of has an understanding of where players are, where they will be, how they'll react. And I really like that about him.
And he's a winner.
Yeah, absolutely. He's just a guy that I don't think he's making an all-rookie team and maybe not even an all-star game, but he's a guy that 10, 12 years from now, we're going to look back and go, this guy should have got drafted way higher. Because I see him, I have him 12th on my board. I see him getting drafted like late 20s, maybe even second round. So I think he's definitely going to be a guy that is overlooked because he doesn't really flash anything crazy. He's not an incredible athlete. He's not an incredible shooter or anything like that. But just so solid, just understands the game so well. I just have a really good feeling about him. I think he's going to be a long-time NBA vet playing minutes on a good team.
This just crossed my mind. He is like a bigger Mike Conley in a sense, maybe.
Yeah.
Not flashy.
Yeah.
You're not going to say at the gym, Mike Conley, when you make a move.
Yeah.
You're not going to work on your Mike Conley game. But I definitely can see him being like a steady, high-level point guard that may just be right beneath the all-star category. Because, all-stars, a lot of it is based off of fans and so on. And so Conley is never a guy that people are going to be like, hey,
He also played in Memphis. You're not a big market, so yeah.
Played in Memphis. Yeah, maybe if he was in the Eastern Conference, then he would have
he probably would have got one or two spots, yeah.
Yeah, because I guess you can say the same thing about Kyle Lowry in a sense, and it's kind of funny because they played together early in their careers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can see that with Maledon, but like I mentioned, he's a winner. He's won. And on the he's won in France. He has some pretty nice accolades coming into last season. It was unfortunate that we didn't really get a chance to see him a lot in the EuroLeague, but yeah, I think he's a guy that a lot of the American fan base doesn't really know a lot about.
Yeah,
and I definitely think that he is kind of put into a box because he's a French point guard and he's not flashy. So, people probably comparing him to Frank Ntilikina. And I like Frank. I think Frank is, I think Frank is a good player. He just probably needs
I'm still holding on to the Frank stock.
Me too. I'm still holding on to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Theo
Maledon,
I think I just love his fundamentals. He's got great footwork, great motor, great IQ for the game. I see him a lot kind of like SGA, where they don't necessarily have to be the primary ball handler, but that's probably where they're best off. I do worry about Maledon's shot a little bit. I didn't see a whole lot of shot-making ability, but I don't necessarily think that has to be his role. Right. He's a guy that can go and get 12 points a game, or not really be a go-to scorer, but still be such an impactful player.
Take care of the ball.
Right. Yeah, doesn't really turn the ball over. Yeah, I think he's going to be a guy that probably won't sell a lot of jerseys, but will win a lot of games, and that's really what I'm looking for on this. So.
Yep. All right. So now number 13, RJ Hampton.
All right. Hampton, he's similar to Maledon. I don't think he's making now a rookie team, but I think 3 years from now, I think he's one of those like long-term project kind of guys where on the line, once he puts it all together, he'll be a really, really impactful player. But he's a little bit raw as of now. It's more athleticism and slashing and that sort of thing. But with a few years of NBA development, I think he can be on a trajectory of being an all-star player.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and I may be a little biased because I've been seeing him since he was in high school, and he works out down the street from where I live, so I had a chance to watch him
Right.
work out. I think for him, his shot that's the key to unlock everything that he has. If his shot is legit, then it's going to open up his driving lanes, and I mean, he's a incredible athlete. I think that his athleticism has been somewhat underrated, but he has a lightning quick first step, and he's able to get into the paint. And then, he's a solid passer, solid court vision, especially on like drive and kick situations. But everything to me just depends on his shot. And then I think fit is going to be really important for him. I mean, it's kind of cliche because that's important for everybody. But if he's on a team where, early in his career, they just have him playing off the ball and stash him in the corner, then I don't think that's the best fit for him. I think he needs to go to a situation where he has the ball in his hands some, and they let him, just kind of play through his mistakes. And so I think even with Deni, earlier in the season before the playoffs, Maccabi had him just kind of as a spot-up shooter. And, he's about an average shooter at best, to say.
Yeah.
But, if you give him a chance to – play with the ball and make plays for others, and you kind of unlock his full skill set. And so I think with RJ, fit is definitely going to be really important for him. I would really hate to see him go to a team and, they just kind of turn him into a spot-up shooter.
Right. And not only the role, but I think he has to end up in a situation where you're not expecting a lot out of him at first, in the sense of just be patient with him. Because I do think that his game is pretty raw now. He has the tools to get to a really high level. So I think if he goes to a team that, whether or not they put the ball in his hands, if they're expecting him to be really productive right away and you don't get that out of him, I could see a team sort of quitting on him, and then he goes somewhere else, and that's where he really kicks off his career. I could see that happening because the way he plays now, it seems like he needs to add some more strength, add some more experience against high-level defense before, he really becomes a complete player. I do want to ask you about something. I was watching one of your other board videos a little while ago, and you were talking to, I want to say it was Eric. I forget. I think it was your most recent one, but you were talking about RJ Hampton, and you had said that you had gotten to see him recently. That he changed his shot form.
Yep, I filmed the workout. It's a video that I posted probably 2 weeks ago.
Oh, okay. But I noticed you had mentioned how he changed his form, which I thought was interesting because as we had seen it when he was playing for New Zealand, I had a lot of questions about his form, his shot overall.
Yeah, he's changed it. It's more of a traditional form, like before he used to kind of shoot with his elbow out.
Yeah.
And so now it's elbow in. The release looks good. But yeah, it's a video I posted probably like 2 weeks ago, maybe even 3. Time is flying. But I was at his workout, and he shot the ball well. I even put up like the percentages that he shot. He shot a lot of NBA threes, but it was more so a day of stationary shooting. I didn't really see him making any shots on the move or off the dribble or anything like that. But it just happened to be that day that I was on there. I want to say it was like late in the week. So I know he works out like 6 days a week. So it was probably like a Thursday or Friday. And so it was just more so of a day of just, like I said, set shots. But he shot the ball really well. Again, there wasn't any defense there. But right. I don't think he would have shot the ball that well at this time last year or even earlier this year. So he's definitely put in the time and worked on his shot. And, he's been working with Mike Miller and Penny Hardaway. I know that he does a week in Dallas and then he does a week in Memphis, and he's been going back and forth working out. But the one thing I like about him is he's a dog and he's competitive, and he's been driven by the fact that, he was a top 5 player in his class. And then now he's fallen on draft boards. I mean, I've seen him as low as 18. I've seen him in the 20s. I mean, he may not approve of me saying this, but that is really driving him. Like he's he's seen how he's fallen, and he's seen how other guys have shot up above him. And especially like now when there hasn't been any games played and nobody's really done anything since March, and then all of a sudden you see a guy rise above him. I know that's one of the things that's kind of fueling him. All right, so the last pick in the Dion Sherman big board for the lottery is Saddiq Bey. Now, I'm a Blazers fan. The Blazers don't have the 14th pick, so I don't like this. But
yeah,
I want him in Portland. I think that he'd be a
really
perfect fit.
Yeah, I've noticed that in your other videos. Every time Saddiq Bey comes up, you mention your Blazers. I think that's a perfect fit, actually. Exactly what Portland needs.
Yep.
He's a guy that can be a shot maker, off the catch. I think he can do a little bit off the dribble. I think that's the biggest thing that people don't really talk about with him. He was a point guard in high school. Before he shot up.
And this year he played a lot of points.
I think he can do a lot with the ball in his hand, but he's a guy that definitely doesn't need the ball. He can fit next to other players. His size, I think he has potential to play the 4. But I don't know how many 4s he could defend. I feel like I didn't see a lot of it at Villanova. He's mostly perimeter defender. But he's very versatile on that end. He's not a big fouler, kind of just plays fundamental strong defense. He's just a great glue guy, I think someone that, isn't going to be a ball stopper, isn't going to be a bad shot taker, just, one of those Villanova guys that plays the game in the right way. And even if they don't have an elite skill, just well-rounded and just always have a positive impact on the game.
Yeah, it's interesting to me because 10 years ago, a guy like Saddiq Bey would probably be a second-round pick because they would say he's a tweener, too small to play the 4, not quick enough to play the 3. And then you look at Vernon Carey or Isaiah Stewart, and they would have been top 5 picks. Just shows how much the game has changed. Yeah. I think long-term his position will be a 4. I mean, you look at, like Miami has been starting Jay Crowder at the 4. The Lakers' best lineup to me is with it's Markieff Morris. Markieff at the 4. Like Boston has been playing 6'7", 6'8" guys at the 4.
Center.
Tice is 6'8". So, yeah, I think that long-term he's a 4. He's more of a weapon at the 4 because I project him to be a floor spacer. Mm-hmm. And then if you close out on him, he can put the ball on the floor, but more so make a play for others. I don't know how often he'll be able to, attack the rim on straight-line drives at the 4 because he doesn't have that type of quickness. But I also think that he can make teams pay for switching. If you get a team, they switch everything, then you can post up if he has a matchup with a point guard. And then if you send a double, he can make all the right reads. So I think that, I like him a lot. But I want him in Portland. So I think he would be the ideal fit for the Blazers. And so if he ends up in the lottery before Portland picks, I'll be like, man, I don't know who would be another ideal fit unless, you get another shooter or whatever, but he's what the Blazers need. But I like him a lot. And I think Villanova guys are, they're rock solid. Yeah. And you know what you're going to get out of those guys. So, I think that seeing him drafted in the lottery is not a shocker to me.
Yeah. And I try not to buy too much into, certain school guys, like Villanova guys or Kentucky guys, something like that. But, you look back at guys from Villanova drafted all rock solid, high IQ guys. And I don't see Saddiq Bey being any different. I agree. Perfect fit for Portland.
Yeah. But even another team, I think that he would be a good fit for, New Orleans, because I think, they're going to need to play Zion a lot of minutes at the 5. And if you give him floor spacer there at the 4 with Ingram and Ball or Redick or whatever. So, to me, he's kind of like Haliburton in a sense where you can plug him and play him anywhere and he's going to fit. And, he's going to be an ideal complementary player for any superstar.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think the Spurs would be another fit for him, too.
Spurs would be a good fit.
They've been playing DeRozan at the 4 a little bit.
Yeah.
I could see him sort of playing that role, too.
Yeah. I wonder if DeRozan is going to come back, But yeah, I mean, they had
I
DeRozan at
think,
the 4, but he was also like the primary ball handler also.
yeah, yeah. I think DeRozan has a player option, like
Yeah.
26 million or something like that. So I definitely don't see him turning that down.
Yeah,
But
even
long term,
Sacramento. I mean, I don't know if anybody's a really good fit for the Kings because they, just based off
yeah,
of their talent,
unless
it
they,
seems like you already know who their starting 5 is.
yeah, unless they trade Heald, but we'll
Yeah.
see how that goes, I guess.
Yep. All right. So, we did your lottery. So, give me 2 players that just barely missed your top 14 that you think could be in the lottery.
Oh, okay. So after Saddiq Bey, I mean, I have it ranked, but the whole group of guys that I think are worth mentioning right now. But if I had to pick two, I'd probably go with Kyra Lewis Jr. and Patrick Williams. Kyra Lewis because I mean he's just blazing fast. He's a guy that I mean worst case he's probably like Ish Smith. You know what I mean? Just sticks around just because he's a guy that can get into the teeth of the defense. He's not anything crazy in terms of being a passer, but he makes the right reads. And just with how quick he is, I think he's a decent shooter. I really want him to go to the Magic. I think it's a perfect fit for him.
That's about right. Yeah, 15.
Yeah, that would work. But yeah, so I'm hoping he ends up. I really just love his speed. It's the way he plays the game, a million miles an hour. I like him. And Patrick Williams is a guy that I think he's going to take a couple years to really develop, but the potential is just so high with him. He's already got an NBA-ready body. He's got that sort of like almost Kawhi-like mid-range pull-up dribble he likes to go to. Really versatile on defense. So I like the idea of Patrick Williams. I'm not 100% sold on him. If I was, I'd probably have him in my top 10. I just didn't see enough. The fact that he came off the bench, Florida State, I think should say something. I mean, the potential is incredible with him. So I think he's worth a mention.
Yeah, I think one, he's so young. So
yeah, right. Yeah, I think he is the youngest player in this class actually.
Pokusevski is.
Oh, true. Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't think he turns 19 until like December. I want to say Pokusevski just barely made the deadline as far as age.
Oh wow. Yep, well, to be fair, Poku's not even like sniffing my top 30. So
oh wow.
I hadn't even thought about him. Yeah, I'm not really buying it. I understand people that are. I remember you had a guy on here that had him like 11th or something. I'm just not buying it with him though.
I even had a guy. We did the podcast, but we had too many technical difficulties.
Mm-hmm.
He just had a bunch of technical difficulties. It was just too bad of a product to put out. He had him number 1.
Oh wow.
Yeah, he had him number 1 on his board, and I kind of wish I was able to put it out because it would have been really controversial, and I'm pretty sure he got a lot of questions and views and comments on it. But yeah, he had him number 1, and he had him in a tier on its own. It was like tier 1, Pokusevski, and then under that tier 2 was he just kind of went down from there.
I mean, respect to him for feeling sticking to his own opinion. Because a lot of people, if they had an opinion like that, they knew it was so far off consensus, they probably wouldn't even say it out loud.
Yep.
I mean, I gotta at least respect him for that, for not being afraid to say what he really feels. But I mean, wow.
Yep, for sure. Yeah, it's probably a few episodes ago. The guy had Paul Reed and Jalen Smith. I think he had him 8 and 9. He had him above Wiseman, Okongwu, and Toppin. And the commentary on that one was pretty funny. Yeah. But I respected the fact that he stuck to his opinion. He wasn't swayed by, the other big boards and draft boards and people who have, that write for major publications. Mm-hmm. This was just what he saw, and I respect it. I liked it. I mean, we're all guessing here.
Mm-hmm. That's all a guessing game, But I think you could make individual arguments for those players over guys like Wiseman and Toppin. But yeah, it's certainly controversial to have them that high.
Yep. All right, man. Thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it. Can you tell the listeners again where they can find your work at?
So I'm on Instagram. It's at @the_hoop journal. And then through there, you can find my website, thehoopjournal.com. It'll be the link in my bio. A lot of new things coming. The website is pretty much brand new, so I'm going to start to be putting stuff up there, blog type posts. I'm hoping to get a podcast going soon, which will also be on YouTube if I get that going. And that's about it. Just Instagram and everything else you can find through there. So it's at @the_hoop journal.
All right. Yep. I'm definitely following. I'm following on my personal account and on my NBA Draft Junkies account. So
Appreciate it.
So cool. So thanks again for coming on. I would like to have you on again and to do your picks 15 through 30.
Okay.
So if you're up for it, let me know. We'll talk offline about that, set up a date. But yeah, thanks again for coming on. I appreciate your insight, and look forward to having you on again.
Thanks. I appreciate you having me, man. It means a lot, Probably the number one person I go to for draft information. You really do, I think, a great job of breaking down film and really talking about what you see. So I really respect your opinion a lot. So it means a lot to be on here.
Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm just trying to get better every day and trying to, I'm having fun with it. I like doing it. And I mean, when I was a kid, I used to love the NBA draft I wish I would have started when I was like 14 or something like that.
Right, yeah.
But yeah, man, I appreciate the love you've shown to the YouTube channel, and I just want to keep putting out more and more work and getting better every year.
Absolutely.
All right, thanks again. It's Raphael with NBA Draft Junkies with my guest Dion Sherman from the Hoop Journal, and we are out.